Hi, I'm Chris Springer with Dan Am Company, and I'm here today to talk to you about the technical differences between the 1500 SoLV and the X5500 spray guns. Let's first start out by talking about technology in paint. So you've pretty much got waterborne technology and solvent-borne technology. And when you're reading ABRN or Body Shop Business or any of the industry mags right now, really all you see is everything trending towards compliant coatings, low VOC clear coats, low VOC base coat systems that are under, for the US, 3.5 pounds per gallon or below. That being said, there's a large demographic of shops in this industry that are still on solvent-borne technology. So when we talk about our premium platform, or our 5500, our X5500 spray gun, this really, all the development work and design and engineering that goes into our spray guns as far as this platform really leans itself towards the waterborne coatings and, all technologies of clear coat. That is not to say that this doesn't work for solvent-borne or that it's a dedicated gun specifically for water, but what it does say is that most of the engineering and atomization focus that goes into this is for waterborne coatings. So that being said, waterborne requires a larger amount of energy at the air cap to atomize those droplets fine enough to get that good metallic and pearl orientation and distribution of material throughout the pattern evenly, more so than solvent does. So in the 5500 platform, we actually offer two different style patterns. We have what we call an I pattern and an O pattern. And the main differences between those, and these are just some general numbers, about that far away from the air cap, but your I pattern is roughly about 12 inches tall, and it's a little bit more of a narrow pattern, where your O pattern is 10.5 inches tall and a little bit wider. Now, the key thing to keep in mind here is, even though those pattern shapes and wetness is changing, it's the same amount of material coming out of the front of the gun. So as an example, again, theoretical numbers, but let's just say a 1.3 fluid tip has roughly 200 cc's per minute of material coming out. Well, you're taking that 200 cc's and you're spreading that either over a 10.5 inch pattern or a 12 inch pattern. So the perception to the painter behind the gun, you can look at this as a half full or half empty glass approach, is the O pattern will always spray a little bit wetter than an I pattern, or an I pattern will always spray a little bit drier than an O. That's not to say there's one that is a right or wrong choice. The reason we're giving you options is there's different types of painters. There's painters that like to be very close, really quick with their arm speed and have a lot of overlap. There's also painters that like to be a little bit further back from the panel, a little bit more what we would classify as a controlled painter. So we're now giving you those options rather than when you purchased a spray gun and then those first couple paint jobs, you were adapting, even though it's subconsciously, you were adapting your painting style to adjust it to the performance of that spray gun. Now we're giving you some options before you even purchase a spray gun, is to purchase it for your specific spraying style. When it comes over to the 1500, the SoLV gun, there's a little bit of marketing that goes behind that, the SoLV. First and foremost is kind of a problem solver. It's a solution for areas where maybe the 5500 isn't the right option for you. The SO and then LV being capitalized, again, it's a marketing thing. We like the LV to be referenced as low VOC or low viscosity. So those are the things you should keep in your head. If you're spraying a low VOC product or a low viscosity product, meaning something that's very low as far as seconds through a DIN 4, like below 20 seconds on a DIN 4, I would classify that, even like 16 seconds on a DIN 4. Those are very, very thin clears. And most of you know this when you've sprayed some of those thinner clears. You pour them, you put the hardener reducer, if it calls for it. When you stir it, you can tell it's a little bit thinner than some of your other, maybe your production clears or a glamour clear that you would spray on an all over. Those low viscosity clears, when you start to spray them, they feel a little bit drier. They feel a little bit thinner on the panel. That's where this gun comes into play truly, and where it shines, no pun intended, is spraying those products that are sensitive to atomization, where you find yourself needing to turn down your inlet pressure because you're starting to blow out the center, or it just feels really dry or really thin as you're spraying it. That's where this gun's pattern design complements the 5500, where these are geared more towards, full panel, everyday production, very difficult colors that need superior metallic control and orientation. This gun kind of comes into play with products that are too finicky on this side of it. So additionally, a part of that marketing is SoLV, is solvent. It should trigger a thought in your head of solvent-borne base coats. I referenced it earlier that when you're looking at any advertisements or any literature currently in our business, it's really geared towards that low VOC market. But, it's give me a little plus or minus 5%, but about 80% of our business is still spraying solvent-borne base coats. Base coats that have been around. Some paint companies have introduced new solvent-borne base coats over the last 5-10 years, but primarily most of these have been around for quite a while. There's new additions of toners and things for specialty colors like 46G, 46V, KAB, unique colors that are in our business. But other than updating those platforms to make sure their color offering is updated, the technology is fairly old. So that being said, the 1500 is one of those guns that it's reminiscent of when solvent-borne base coat was the only option. And I like to reference this back to some of our own products because I see them still constantly out in the market. Would be like a NR2000 or a 3000 spray gun. Those guns, when those guns came into existence, solvent-borne was really your only option. There was solvent-borne base coat or single stages. And on the solvent-borne base coat side of things, the way solvent needs to be sprayed, the way it needs to wet on a panel, the way that film needs to be created, and allow that metallic and pearl orientation to happen so that you're not fighting model, so that you don't have to come back when you're all done and do a drop coat over it to try to straighten things out, and you're getting in there, doing your magic wand waving on your blends, is if you have a pattern that's a little bit shorter than what we've all become accustomed to nowadays with these much larger patterns. When I say a little bit shorter, I'm talking in that 8 to 10 inch range, but specifically the width of the pattern comes into play. As you're going across a panel, the width of a spray pattern is what helps determine that arm speed and the wetting of the material on the panel. This gun specifically is designed so that when you're spraying these solvent-borne base coats, it's giving you that wetting, it's allowing that orientation to happen in the wet so that the aluminums and pearls aren't, getting stuck in their position of model that you then have to come back and fight with a drop coat. So it's allowing that base coat to go on the way it should go on. Now, when it comes to clear coats, you kind of have options. I did reference earlier that there's some low VOC clear coats, and there's certainly clear coats that I would say lend themselves to be more successful with a 1500 than maybe a 55. But the greater majority of clears, it comes down to your preference, your spray style, your final appearance expectations and benchmarks. So my personal preference when I'm spraying a lot of clears is the 1500 RP13, and typically I'll set that between 22 to 26 PSI inlet pressure, and just about every single clear I spray, I'm successful with those pressures. Now, where the 1500 doesn't necessarily, fill every need, is the options that it comes with is both HVLP and RP with a 1.3 or a 1.4 fluid tip. So what we found in our market research and all the studies and application work that we did when developing these guns is that the majority of the products that fall into that category, the solvent-borne base coat, the low VOC solvent-borne base coats, low viscosity clear coats that are also low VOC, they all pretty much spray through a 1.3 or a 1.4. So what that does is it limits your options in the 1500, where in your 5500 platform, in the X series of guns, you're gonna have that full range, right? From 1.1 all the way up to a 1.5, 1.6. So you have a little bit more versatility, a little bit more options on the 5500 side than you do on the 1500, but it also comes into play with price. The price point of the 1500 is a lower price point than the 5500, And we're conscious of that. We know guys out in the field are price sensitive. It's something that does come into play when you're making your decision of what gun you're going to purchase. So when you're looking at these and when you're trying to figure out which gun is right for me, should I be shopping a 5500? Should I be shopping a 1500 SoLV gun? You should be asking yourself those questions. One, is price going to come into play with this? Because if it is, it really narrows you down to only having the 1500 as an option. But if price isn't something that we're going to talk about, we're going to focus on performance, then you have to ask yourself, what type of base coat system am I spraying? What types of clear coats am I spraying? What types of guns did I used to like to spray? Do you get a 5500 for color, but maybe you're using an older 3000 or 4000 for clear coat, and you need to upgrade that gun, but it doesn't necessarily need to go all the way to a 5500? These are all good questions that you should be asking yourself when you're going in to purchase a new gun. Another segment that we don't talk about a ton because we're so focused on automotive refinish is the commercial and industrial markets. I can't emphasize enough how successful we've been since this gun's inception on the commercial coating side of things. When it comes to single stages, and I don't even want to shoehorn it into a commercial coatings only. There are refinishers out there, companies, we know them, large MSOs that focus specifically on single stage coatings. Any urethane or acrylic urethane or polyurethane single stage coating sprays amazing through the 1500 RP. The nice thing about it is it's giving you that performance of clear coat application, but in a color coat that's a direct gloss. So don't forget about this gun when you're looking at those segments as well. We do a tremendous amount with the X5500 in ambulances and fire truck manufacturers where their finishes have to be of the highest quality. But there's also a lot of train manufacturers and dump truck painters and septic truck, systems that need to be painted and coated. And those coatings also do need good atomization. They need to dry properly, or you start getting into issues of solvent pop, orange peel, dieback. So you can't necessarily just grab the bottom of the bargain barrel for spray guns. But you also may not need our highest end option in the 5500. The 1500 could be that option for you in those markets. Thanks again today for watching the differences between the X5500 and the 1500 SoLV. If you need more information, you can click the link to our website down in the description below. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and that bell notification so that you get notified anytime we post a new video.